KRFP, Moscow is the best in the USA. Yeah.
KRFP is supported by
Panhandle Artisan Bakery, baking naturally leavened bread using local ingredients. Panhandle Artisan Bakery is located at 630 North Almond Street, Suite 110, and panhandlebread.com.
KRFP is also supported by the Environmental Defense Institute, actively engaged with issues involving the Idaho National Laboratory, a Department of Energy nuclear site. EDI advocates for environmentally sound nuclear policy decisions.
Good evening, Moscow. You are listening to KRFP 90.3. We are Prosers, a literary talk show composed of MFA students in the creative writing program at the University of Idaho. I am Jason.
Catherine.
Ross.
So basically what we do here is a short 30-minute chat session about writing, reading, and the mysteries of life.
That sounds...
that funny to someone?
No, that's not funny to me.
And then coming up at 8 o'clock, we have third-year fiction writer and Hemingway Fellow Max Eberts, who will read some of his work and join in on the chat. So, to get down to it...
What's going on, Jay?
So I'm thinking about possibly, it's February... It's the end of February, so I have to make a decision whether or not I want to stay in the house I'm currently living in or get a single one-bedroom apartment. So currently my situation is I live in a house with 5 people, counting myself. So it's sometimes it just gets a little hectic. There's traffic in the kitchen most of the times, and...
But you have your own bedroom.
Yeah, I have my own bedroom. There's
some luxury. What are the sort of the luxury items?
The pros of this place.
The pros, yeah.
Not the pros, P-R-O-S. Well, we have a cherry tree.
Okay.
So, like, when I first came out here, I was making cherry pies because I didn't know anyone. So I was like, oh, I have a cherry tree, so I'll make some cherry pies.
So you made one pie.
I made about 2 pies.
Okay. Well, how were the pies?
One was a store.
Did they make you happy?
Yeah. One was a store-bought crust, and it was pretty solid. And then the second time, I actually made the dough myself out of I looked up a recipe and I did it. The first time I had to destroy it because something in the mixture got messed up. But then the second time I did it and I did the layers, like the strips on top. So then you saw the cherries popping through like the center pieces. You know what I mean? Like the weave top.
Yeah.
So
that was the most luxurious thing at the house. The like option to have cherries.
Yeah, there's that. It's in a nice neighborhood. The room's nice. There's no bugs. I lived in a lot of places that had, in Chicago, I had mice before. I've had cockroaches. And it's like, I didn't want any of that, so that's all good. But then it just gets hectic with roommates. And I'm the horrible person to like live with other people. So that's the main thing why I'm thinking about moving. But then if you move, it's more money. I have to buy all kitchenware. I have to buy futons. I have to buy all this stuff. And it's like, I'm here for about another 2 years or year and a half. Do I make that decision? Do I not?
I guess it depends. Do you want to be alone or not?
Alone just in the house?
Do you want to die alone?
Yeah. Now we're talking.
Like, what do you want your future to look like?
It would be nice to be alone and to have that peace and quiet. But at the same time, what's holding me back is, like, for instance, I saw a place and they don't have a washer and dryer.
Oh, yeah. I don't have a washer and dryer. I got it.
So you go to laundromat?
Yeah.
Do you like doing that?
I mean, it's all right. Sit there and read, but sometimes other people show up.
Yeah.
And it can get...
Who are these other people that are showing up?
Well, like, people will come with, like...
Laundromats are always sketchy places.
Yeah, true. But, I mean, people will come with, like 40 years worth of laundry and, like, take up all the laundry mats they put their shoes in there sometimes, and you're just watching them, and it's like, why are you washing your shoes? And I had a woman and a man came in, and they were fighting, and I guess the guy the night before had been drunk and had been calling
there's domestic drama.
Yeah,
this
guy had been calling this woman's kids racial slurs, and
so it
got pretty nasty.
That's what I'm talking about, though. It's like, do I deal with someone washing their shoes and domestic abuse, or do I just deal with a dirty dish every now and then? Because it's like the main frustration is the kitchen.
Well, that's just if you don't have a washer and dryer. Are all the new places, the single man life, does that all include like the absence of a washer and dryer?
That's a make or break deal, baby. No, it's like, I don't know. It's just, I can't deal with what Ross is talking about. I don't even like going out writing. And you guys are coffee shop writers, right?
Yeah.
Occasionally. I don't enjoy it, but I do it.
I was at a coffee shop today writing, and I saw Catherine.
I did. I was just there to get coffee, not to write.
Yeah. I don't like being out in public places when there's other stuff going around. Like, I'm not a fan of that stuff.
Well, you have a car, so you could drop off your stuff and then come back.
You have to worry about someone stealing it.
Come back.
But I feel like we're getting away from you living alone or you living in the house you're living in. Why don't you just find a place that has a washer and dryer?
But it's just
you think that goes into a price range that you just can't handle right now.
Yeah, that's like, I don't think I could handle that price range.
So it's required that if you find a new place, it's going to not come with a washer and dryer.
Have you considered an arranged marriage?
I'll probably post that on Craigslist when I go.
Yeah, I think that's all. You'll have that one person. So you'll still have the annoyance, but it's less annoyance than 5 people, and you'll probably have a washer and dryer.
You can also find a friend that has a washer and dryer and make some arrangement.
Yeah, I was thinking about maybe using the one at the house that's there now and like going there. I don't know. It's like
just going back to the house that you lived in, just use the washer and dryer.
Yeah, but I think like that would be like, you're out. You're
I gotta say that.
Yeah, can I wash my clothes and eat some cherries? And they'll be like, no.
Unless you're in some kind of sexual relationship with someone still living there, no. I don't think that's cool.
That gives you a pass to use the washer and dryer.
It basically comes down to money. That's the main thing, and it's like, and it's also moving, and then it's just all that sort of stuff. But then it's the fact of I don't know if I could like live. I'm a really like I can't live with people that well, and I'm like trying to figure out. This is the main thing why I wanted to bring this up. It's like, is it good for you to put yourself in situations that you feel uncomfortable with in order to eventually get comfortable with them?
Yeah, I think that's like totally a good thing.
But what if you never could get comfortable?
There's a limit. There's like a limit, and sometimes you just got to treat yourself.
So what do you do? So you're saying that I should stay in...
No, I think you should leave.
But then I'm going back into my little cave.
I think leaving gives you the comfort of a cave, which you sound like you need right now. Mm-hmm. And it forces you to get out and have to socialize a little bit with people you feel uncomfortable with at the laundromat. I think that would be a good thing for you.
What do you guys do? You guys do anything that you don't want to do that you do in life?
Never. Not once.
You always do whatever. You're like, I do what Ross wants to do all the time.
No, I mean,
I have to take my car in sometimes.
What?
To get service. I have to mail things.
Those are things that nobody wants to do. But it's like, I'm saying, like, do something intentionally with the intent to not want to know that you don't want to do it, but you're doing it to better yourself.
Like I write, I guess. I don't really like doing that, but I do it.
So you're writing in a door to better yourself?
Yeah.
And to become what sort of person?
Just what kind of a person? Just like a
literary phenom.
That's a good title. I would like.
Catherine, literary phenom.
I don't know. Just like a more enlightened, like I've got stuff figured out kind of person. Like how I'm expressing myself.
So you
like nothing
that.
Too fancy.
Yeah. So then I could say the same thing with it's like I like being comfortable around people. I like having the ability to interact with them without wanting to like chop their heads off or like run them over my car.
I just think at the house you're staying at, it sounds like it's a slow boil of like stuff that irritates you and stuff that doesn't necessarily challenge you, it just annoys you.
Let me toss this scenario out to you guys. So I was originally supposed to have the bottom floor, and in the bottom floor there's only 2 rooms, and the rooms are fairly separate, apart from one another. The top floor has 3 rooms. They're all in the far left corner of the house, and they're all 3 together pretty much. So it's like I'm living on like by a highway right now that has like really loud traffic. You know what I mean? Like I'm in the city. You guys following this at all?
I am. I love the metaphor.
There's a lot of noise going on.
You want to move out
traffic.
to the you want to move out to
I
the
want to move out to the
burbs.
suburbs in the basement, and I believe that room's going to be open. So I'm like, maybe I'll move into the basement and live that basement life, because you go in the basement, you just disappear.
Yeah.
So.
I say you move out. I just say you move out. You move to someplace. You move out to the country.
But that's in the
metaphorically.
So you're saying I should take the room
cabin
downstairs.
in the woods. Nope, cabin in the woods.
Cabin in the woods.
Bus in Alaska. A little studio apartment.
Eating poison berries.
Yeah, and I know how that ends with what was that, Into the Wild, right?
Emil Hirsch. Yeah, Emil Hirsch.
Yeah, I think that's what you should do.
I'm thinking I might take that bit. You're saying to do that and die, or are you saying that I should? What are you?
He
telling
was
me?
free. He was free.
So you're saying I should burn my car?
I feel like
live in a
you're
bus,
already on a trajectory towards that
towards
you need to
destruction?
embrace.
Yeah. So basically, what she's saying is, you need to die in the wilderness, and then Emil Hirsch will play you in the movie, and Sean Penn will direct it. It's going to be great.
It sounds pretty good to me. I mean,
I feel like that's.
So what do you? I mean, just from listening to that story, what do you think I should do? Do you think I should take the basement room, go?
Move out.
Yeah, move out.
Then you have.
Yeah, you're not going to win, man.
I
ever.
feel like
not
I feel
100%.
like you've brought this up with us because you want permission from your friends to tell you to move out and get your own place.
I know, but it's just more money. It's all that sort of stuff.
I know. That's
It's
your
just-
ego, Jason.
The money. What? How does money?
Do you like your roommates besides their annoyances?
Yeah, they're cool. I mean, I just feel like I could find annoyances with anybody. I could find annoyances with Gandhi or like.
And probably, actually, he was such a saint. I'm sure, that he was just horrible
he's
to
gotta
live
be,
with.
He probably didn't clean his SpaghettiOs or whatever he was eating.
Didn't turn the fan on after he used the bathroom.
Yeah, it's like, oh,
come on, Gandhi.
Yeah, what's going on here? But it's like I feel like I could pick out that with anybody. So,
Yeah.
But that could be something inside me where I enjoy picking out faults of people or something.
I just feel like you're going to be stuck in this purgatory until you live alone, and then either you get happy or either you get so miserable and you yearn for people again, and then you know who you are. Doesn't that
I've lived alone.
You sound like you're in purgatory.
I've lived alone. But
Did you like living alone?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
It was nice. But then I had a neighbor downstairs who was really angry. An angry neighbor I had. And the walls were really thin.
Oh, yeah. I had that experience as well. Well, I pace a lot, and the guy came up, and he was really hungover one day, and he was like, dude, you got to stop pacing around up here. And I was like, well, that kind of sucks for me, but I'll give it a shot, guy. Yeah.
Well, that's another. It's like you move to an apartment, then it's like, what happens if that's the case? What happens if you got walls or walls that are thin, floors that echo? You got a pacer or a screamer. It just.
Do you enjoy listening to other people have sex?
I did. Or wait.
What happened? Why don't you anymore?
Because I don't have anyone. No one's having sex in that house.
Maybe that's the problem.
Don't be so sure.
Maybe that is the problem.
Okay, so it sounds like Ross and I both live alone. So
yeah, what's
right?
it like?
I've lived alone for about 7 years, 6 or 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's I think it's great. You can wake up whenever you want and not feel guilty about it. You can play whatever music. You can you just indulge in your weird behavior. I like to do my homework on the bathroom floor a lot.
I wish you hadn't told me that.
Just
Is
because
this
it's
like your stories that you workshop and then you pass them out to your class and there's all like, these were on the tile on my floor? It's like...
I like to. It's just like it's the warmest place in my house, and I like it in there. I'm not like right out of the shower, like I'm clothed in there. It's like it's not that salacious.
Yeah.
I don't know. You just get to like indulge in your weirdness. Just you get to live on your own schedule. It's luxurious.
Do you have a washer and dryer?
I do in the basement. So
Yeah.
sometimes there's some conflict.
Is it coin or is it?
It's coin. It's fine. It's fine.
How much
it's
is
fine.
this? How much for the coin? What are they?
It's $1 for washing, and actually, I have to do the dryer twice, so it's $2.
Exactly.
I know it's ridiculous. It's so ridiculous.
It's $1.50 at the laundromat, but then it's like
I'm staying. It's like $1.50.
I
It
saved
is
up quarters for a
expensive.
long time.
It is, and every time I ask for, at every coffee shop, I'm like, "Oh, could I get some more quarters for that?" I'm like a little quarter beggar.
There you go.
Yeah, I used to when I cashed my checks, I would get $10 back in quarters, and that was for laundry. But I think it's awesome that we're on the radio right now. Is it coin operated?
Well, that's a big thing.
What's the deal here with laundromats?
There's also the thing where I don't have a lot of clothes. Like I wear a lot
So
of.
you'll be doing laundry all the time.
But it's like I have only a base amount of clothes because I hate shopping and I don't like. Not a lot of stuff fits me right. Like, I'm a very strict.
Specific body type.
It's not. I think I'm just a specific. I like a specific fit, and if I don't,
What's the fit that you? What's
it's
the fit
a
called?
fit. It's called a normal fit.
That sounds very generic, but you said you have a specific type.
You go to like 90% of stores. It's like the shirt's too baggy. It's sticking out too far.
So you like it all very like proportionally fit.
Yeah, it should.
You don't like things hanging and weird.
If you go to Ross, my people will hook you up.
Oh God,
Ross has a connection
that
there.
store. No, but it's like I have a limited amount of clothes. So what I'm saying is, if I use, then it's like the fear of using a new washer dryer because you're like, how is this going to affect stuff? It's like if I put on a cycle and
It'll shrink it a little bit.
Yeah,
It'll be a little more snug of a fit, which it sounds like you like that.
I guess I'm a little neurotic then when it comes to this. I think that's what I'm figuring out.
I think you're screwed no matter what you do.
Yeah, I think that's the problem.
I think going to a laundromat and kind of figuring like getting different kind of shaped clothes after you put your clothes in the dryer or washer would be like a great thing for you.
If I moved out of my place, got a single
I
bedroom
feel like this
apartment,
is coming down to your body.
And
I feel like this is what it's coming down to.
it's all about the body.
I think you need to get more comfortable with your body, Jason.
If I moved out, if I got a place and I went to that laundromat and it shrunk my clothes, I would like blow that place up. My life would be over. Like I wouldn't know what to do. I'd have to get a whole new wardrobe, which is like it's taken me years to accumulate what I have now.
I understand. I understand something.
All I'm saying is that it's a harder decision than just saying yes or no. But
I think it still sounds easy. Get comfy with your body. Move out.
I'm not like uncomfortable with my body.
I'm uncomfortable with my body.
Are you?
It's very weird.
What's weird
going
about
on,
it?
Ross?
I'm getting fat again.
Were you fat before this?
On and off.
Like how fat are we talking about here?
Topped out at like 900 pounds.
That's it? Oh, I was like 1,000 more.
All right.
No, were you really?
I was like 250 at one point.
What are you now?
225.
Oh. Well,
But I was down to like 190.
Oh, wow.
But then I came up here and I haven't been going to the gym.
Yeah.
How's it? Yeah. Do you feel like the lifestyle here puts on? I guess it puts on weight.
Mm-hmm.
Puts on weight for a lot of people.
It's just really easy just to,
Kind of stall out.
cave.
Yeah. Go have beer. Well, you don't drink, but it's easy for people to drink here.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh, yeah? Is it, Catherine?
It's just.
Are you speaking from experience?
It is. It's easier to drink here than it is back home.
In
'Cause
Austin?
there's. Yes,
I feel like
actually.
people there would be partying
They
24/7.
do. Everybody drinks a lot there, but here it's just like it's like one of the activities.
I don't understand how it's like, yeah, but there's so much to do. How do you have time to be drinking all the time?
You just make time for it.
Do you make time? How much are you drinking out here?
Like, probably a few times a week.
Are you getting like a glass of a wine or two? Or
Yeah.
All right. So you're not getting like full blown drunk.
No. It's just like more like consistent, like, oh God, like just need a drink. Or like when you go out with people, it's like a drink would go much better with this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't drank out here, and I can say probably would make things a little easier.
So it's rough to deal with people, you're saying, without that drink.
It's just
Specific
a good number
people?
of people are easier to connect with.
Do you feel that's because
Not my close friends, no. I don't need anything to like connect with them.
sedate
But some
yourself?
other people, it's like, all right, like you're kind of a crazy personality. It's like, all right, let me take a step back, have a drink. Okay, we can talk now. Are you guys judging me?
No, I understand.
I'm totally cool with everyone. I mean,
It's hard to talk about people's European vacations unless you've lubricated some. It's like, oh, you've been to Europe. Tell me more about that. You ate at the vendors. Oh, good for you.
I'll order another, yeah. Eating at vendors.
Why would you go to Europe unless you were going to eat the European food?
Who are you? Are you talking about someone in particular?
Many people in particular. They're not listening, though, and if they are, they probably don't even know I'm talking about them. They're like, oh, Russ is making fun of people.
But I get what you're saying. I'm just giving you a hard time.
It's just like it happens in, I don't know, I feel like it happens in small towns.
Yeah, it's a
just
small
like,
town.
That's like the main activity.
Yeah.
The garden.
It is. It's like the center of the universe.
So, drinking, apartments, washing and drying. Where does this all take us?
Organically.
Where can we
Where can we
wrap
kind
this
of,
up and bring it to a...
Yeah, where can we like gather all this stuff?
So what does it all mean?
I think Jason needs a housewarming party at his new apartment.
Yeah, I think that's where it is all leading.
It could be that, yeah. I invite people that I don't typically hang out with, and we all just, I'm like, yeah, this is my place. This is my living room. Got some beers in the fridge for you to ease the tension.
Gosh, I can just imagine it now.
You should have like a cooler full of Everclear and lemonade or limeade. Limeade and Everclear stirred together, and then everyone has to drink 40s of Steel Reserve.
Oh, nice.
And you should invite the bros from the frats over. That should be your housewarming party. Like, because that would be very uncomfortable and would probably end very badly.
Yeah.
But it would be a good experience.
I wouldn't be getting my security deposit back.
No.
I'll just say that.
Probably not.
And then you can get naked and get comfortable with your body.
Yeah.
No, that sounds great. On that note, I think we're going to have to take a break because I'm getting very self-conscious here. But we will be right back in a couple minutes with Max Eberts, third-year fiction student, Hemingway Fellow. Stay tuned. You don't want to miss it.
Hello, welcome back to Prosers. Our guest in the studio tonight is the one and only Max Eberts. Max, woo! Max is a third-year MFA candidate in fiction and this year's Hemingway Fellow at the University of Idaho. Max was born in Washington, D.C., but primarily grew up in Europe as a result of his dad's career as a military and foreign service officer. He came back to the U.S. to work construction in Arizona before attending Rice University in Houston, Texas, beginning the start of his metamorphosis into a full-blooded Texan. Just kidding, Max. He's only half Texan. He survived both Texas and the corporate world and is now currently working on a novel titled Berlin Stories about a young expatriate living in Berlin before, during, and after the fall of the wall. His prose, I find, is not so unlike his self, hyper-engaging, pithy, and sarcastic, but also soft-hearted, compassionate, and unexpectedly innocent. He has published poetry in the Hudson Review, the Sewannee Review, Poetry, and others. He won the Academy of American Poetry Prize his senior year at Rice and he's got a great big cat named Bosco. He loves to dance to ska music, and he makes the best gimlets in town. Max, this is also your dating profile, by the way. Listeners, I give you Max Eberts reading his work.
Thank you very much for the introduction. So, should I just start reading?
Go for it.
Well, I do want to give a little background. The protagonist of this novel is named Theo Constantis. He's American. His father's Greek-American, but he's also a military officer. And I'm going to read from the first chapter. And before Theo gets to Berlin, he's almost lived his entire life overseas. He's lived in 6 countries, 8 different cities, and he has attended 8 different schools. And so Berlin will be the 9th school. But this is a segment from when they lived at Kuwait City. So I'll start. From the Pan Am jet, as he flew over, circling before we landed, Kuwait City looked like the back of a giant radio whose back had been ripped off and all its exposed transistors, tubes, and spikes were rising out of the sand of a desert at the edge of a sea. The heat hit our faces like a blast furnace when we walked out of the automatic doors of the air-conditioned airport. It's the hottest city on the planet, during summer, my father said. I hated the heat, I hated the food, I hated the way everyone stared at me, the way there was nothing to do, the way nothing was green, no grass, no trees, and nothing made me feel more like a foreigner living in a foreign land than hearing the muezzins calling everyone to prayer. All of them wailing through loudspeakers throughout the city, a traffic jam of chant, of incantation, of sound like the babble of men calling out their wares at market. It was the first time I had ever heard that sound, and it was the first time I had ever seen women completely covered in black garments, burqas, looking at you through a slit with their black eyes. We lived in a secure compound with other Americans and kept a low profile. My mother always wore long skirts with long sleeves and a long scarf wrapped around her head. There had been a number of recent kidnappings, the son of a French diplomat, a British businessman, a French businessman. But they had all been returned for ransoms. Even though there were several good British schools and one American school, my parents were advised that it might be best, because of my father's position at the embassy, if I were schooled in the embassy compound along with 14 other American children. I had to go with my father to the embassy nearly every day in a bulletproof car. None of the Marine guards at the embassy really took to me the way they did in Athens. Though I tried to be friends, none of them, it seemed, wanted to be my big brother. No doubt they were anxious after the bombing of the American embassy in Beirut, only a few months earlier. Then, on October 23rd, Sunday morning in Beirut, a suicide bomber crashed a truck full of explosives into the barracks for the 1st Battalion, 8th Marines, killing 241 American servicemen, 220 of them Marines. 2 days later, my father told us that Troy Dixon, one of the Marine big brothers in Athens, was killed in the bombing. My mother and I cried. Even my father had tears. It was too sad to go to my classes at the embassy the rest of the week. My mother and I went to the Holy Family Cathedral Catholic Church, one of the few normal-looking buildings in Kuwait City, and asked the priest to give a mass for Troy. And we wrote letters to Troy's mother, telling her how much we loved her son and what a wonderful person he was, and how he was like my big brother. My father had 2 photos made from negatives of pictures of Troy and me. He always kept the negatives of pictures he took, one in front of the embassy of me saluting him, and the other of him at our house having dinner. And my father sent them with our letters to Troy's mother. After that, once a week, my mother sent me to the embassy with a box of sandwiches and cakes she made for the Marine Guards. Tell them it's a small thanks for what they do. Usually, one unusually nice day in November, a perfect day around 25 degrees Celsius. After my father's driver dropped me off at the compound I lived in, I decided to go for a walk and headed to a nearby souk, an open market, an uncrowded part of the city, passing another upscale residential area on the way. Wearing what had become my uniform, khaki Bermuda shorts, a white cotton polo under a navy linen blazer, I checked out the outdoor market. Light penetrating the goat skins stretched across the tops of booths, dappling the goods for sale with light. Food and produce, hanging meats, melons, avocados, greens, artichokes, onions, potatoes, oranges, spices, old coins, beads and jewelry, teapots, ceramic jars, carved boxes, fabrics and silk scarves, slippers and shoes, perfumes, dried flowers and exotic scents, each barefoot vendor in their threadbare white thwab nodded as I passed their booths, many still chanting, chattering something about their produce or wares. I didn't understand what, but it was the middle of the afternoon, and other vendors just stood quietly at their booths, too tired to yell out. People on the street gave me inquisitive looks. I bought and enjoyed a cup of tea in a small blue ceramic cup, set it down, and wandered into a winding street that looked inviting with its old, light-flecked buildings. Suddenly, everyone was staring at me, not with curious looks, but with unfriendly expressions. I could see that even the women had knitted brows through the slit in their burqas. I refused to be scared. I wanted to turn back, and I should have, but I didn't, until a boy my age came up to me and said calmly in English, "You need to go home. You need to go home. Do you know how to get home?" I nodded and ran back to our compound. On a Monday morning, 2 weeks before Christmas, after a blonde girl named Catherine Brooker and I closed the long navy blue drapes and Tyler Briggs turned off the lights, and the 14 of us all gathered around Mr. Thayer as he lit the glowing orb of the sun to demonstrate how the earth tilts on its axis and moves through its orbit to give us the seasons, which seemed like a stupid lesson since Kuwait only had 2 seasons, hot and really fucking hot. And just as earth was tilting away from summer in the northern hemisphere, a blast shattered the windows and my eardrums. All of us, along with the sun and the earth, went hurtling across the room, slamming against the opposite wall, nearly all of us, including Mr. Thayer, bloodied by the projectiles of glass. I remember the screams, the dark smoke, the choking smoke, fire, and the complete chaos that followed, people screaming, girls crying, the pungent smell of an electrical fire, the blood, the indescribable fear that you may die. Thayer kept us all together as we made our way out of the rubble. Obviously, the embassy had been bombed. About an hour later, just as someone from the embassy was driving several of us kids to the hospital, we heard another explosion go off. I remember wondering where. The French embassy also had been bombed, I heard someone a few minutes later in the hospital emergency room say. 5 died at the American embassy, over 80 badly injured. I had to have 72 stitches, a very minor injury compared to others. But if those long navy drapes hadn't been closed, things in our classroom would have been much worse. In addition to the American and French embassy, the Kuwait International Airport, the electricity control center, Kuwait's main oil refinery and water desalination plant, and the residential compound for American employees of the Raytheon Corporation were bombed. But had it not been for the faulty wiring of the bombs, the damage would have been far worse. Even at the American embassy, only a quarter of the explosives detonated. And had the truck carrying 200 gas cylinders exploded closer to the water desalination plant, Kuwait would have been left without water. My parents, and for that matter, just about everyone at the embassy, were disturbed by an embassy report contradicting what had been reported in the Stars and Stripes, the American paper for those serving overseas. The report, which my mother kept for years after the bombings, stated that when President Reagan was asked during a press conference if the bombings in Kuwait signaled a campaign of terrorism that Americans were going to face. His response was that such attacks were now not only happening in Beirut, and he referred to the Kuwait bombings as this thing in Kuwait. In addition, the report stated that 2 days later, when asked if the U.S. was going to retaliate against Syria and Iran, who were behind the bombings, Reagan announced, as he had months earlier after the Beirut bombings, that there would be no retaliation. We have not taken a position, and it is our policy that if this continues, we're not there to shoot first or enter into combat, but I'm never going to send our men any place where they wouldn't be allowed to defend themselves, he said. Then December 27th, during a question and answer session with reporters concerning the findings of a recent Pentagon report on the lack of security of American servicemen in our military institutions as a result of the fundamentally new phenomenon of state-supported terrorism, Reagan responded, "I wholeheartedly agree. Now this problem is not unique to Lebanon. We've seen the ugly manifestation in Kuwait, the terrorist bombing in Rangoon, the senseless murder of Turkish diplomats, the attack of the Pope. In the days ahead, we need to systematically redevelop our approach to this problem," he added. But the embassy report said that he offered no plan or course of action. This thing in Kuwait, the ugly manifestation in Kuwait, what the hell? This Reagan's not any different than Carter. A lot of Americans were saying as Kuwait City became another Beirut. "What are you doing?" I could hear my mother say to my father after they thought I was asleep, but could hear them from the top of the stairs. "We're not safe here. They almost killed our son. You know I would never let anything happen to him," my father said. I had been working for months for them to beef up security at the embassy entrance. I even spoke with people at the State Department. My father said, "I'm the one that had all the school classes moved out of the Chancellery building into the annex. I thought for sure if there was an attack, they would target the main building. Hell, I don't know." "Well, there was an attack, and I know what you need to do," my mother said. "I know what you need to do," my father said. "You should go back to the States until my time's up here." "I would rather we simply move to Wiesbaden with Ursula and Horst," my mother said. "We'll be closer to you." And so it was decided. My mother and I were going to Wiesbaden, but for the next 2 weeks I kept asking, "Why can't we go to the States?" I got my stitches out, but that blast exploded in my head for years, and every time it did, I resented my father.
Thank you.
Thanks, Max. That was great.
Thanks.
All right, we will be right back after this. Stay tuned.
Hello. Welcome back to Prosers. We are in the studio with third-year MFA candidate in fiction and this year's Hemingway Fellow at the University of Idaho, Max Eberts. Max just read us a beautiful excerpt of his novel that he's working on titled Berlin Stories. And the first question I have is a rather serious question, Max. Is the character Catherine Brooker me? Is it based on me?
Damn it. It's true, it is.
Oh, man. I knew it.
I was going to put your real last name, but I didn't want to give you away.
I'm a good detective. I feel like I figured it out anyway.
You are good.
But she's not coming across as a very strong character here. So I'm not sure exactly how you're characterizing me.
Well,
she does shut the drapes, which the protagonist found unnecessary.
Obviously, I need to revise this section so that your character comes through more.
Okay, thank you. Is this the only part that this Catherine Brooker has in?
Oh no.
Oh, she is in other parts as well.
Yes. She turns out to be at Rice University, where this character ends up. Yeah.
Oh, yes.
And she is quite a character.
I could have never gotten into Rice. I do have a question about Rice, which is a beautiful segue
Is Rice in Texas, just so I know?
Yes,
No,
Rice
I'm
is
not
a
that
prestigious
smart.
private university. It's one of the top 20 in the U.S., one of the top 100 in the world.
In
Houston,
Rice Owls.
and what part of Texas is it in?
it's in
Houston.
Houston.
Oh, all right, Houston. All right.
So I have a question related to that. So I know you went from this very cosmopolitan, Eurocentric childhood to America and to Texas and to Rice. And I'm intrigued. I just think Rice was such an interesting place to land in Texas. And I have a quote on what is considered riciness. And the quote is from Texas Monthly. It says, "Riciness is always marked by ingenuity, usually of the scientific variety, and while it occasionally manifests in awe-inducing cutesiness, it is often paired with a no-holds-barred irreverence the British call damned cheek." Which actually reminds me a lot of you. And I wonder, did you feel like you kind of strangely fit in there, or did it form you in some way, or did you feel like an outsider there? What was your relationship with that place?
I think everyone, when they go to college, feels a little bit like an outsider. The neat thing about Rice is that there were a lot of other students in similar situations. And there were students from all over, not just the U.S., but various parts of the world. So you kind of made fast friends with anybody that you just hit it off with.
Is that specific with Rice? And they're known for having people getting students from all over the country?
Yeah,
All
yeah,
right.
that's kind of a mandate of admissions. They're looking for a really diversified student body. Yeah.
So you were just kind of one of the swimming fish there.
Yeah, I felt comfortable there. I was surprised, but it wasn't so much Rice that was a shock. It was Texas. That was a shock.
So getting back, so the story it's Berlin's story. It's about a family where the father's he works for the military, and he has this. It's basically they have a child, and they're going all throughout Europe and other countries in Asia. And is that based off the truth then? Did that actually happen to you?
Yeah, a lot of this is kind of pulled from my own experiences and knowing other kids who had a similar life. But yeah, my dad was a colonel in the Air Force when I was born, and he was frequently in military intelligence. People always say, oxymoron. So he was, at embassies as the military attaché, or sometimes they're referred to as the defense attaché.
All right.
And there's a lot of moving around. I attended 7 different schools, was homeschooled a huge amount.
So what were the main countries that you were in?
The main country I was in was Germany, about 8 years, but in 3 different cities.
All right.
Wiesbaden, Bonn, and Berlin. And also Athens and Greece, Izmir, Turkey, Brussels, Belgium.
Did you like growing up like that, or where was it similar to the, how much, I'm guessing, how much of the story is based off, because the character's told from the point of view of the kid, of the son, Theo. So I have a lot in common with this character. All right.
And in particular, the fact that I really didn't know what it meant to be American, and I was always desperately trying to find out what was American at the time. What was really cool?
Yeah.
What were the cool American kids doing? And my view was every American was cool, and I've starved for that. And
what was that? The drive of starving for that? What did you feel like you were missing out on something?
The fact that I was an American living abroad, always having to be on my best behavior and represent my country. Right. I think the desire was not to have to deal with that. Just be in America, growing up, having a fun life. Like other American kids. And I kind of grew resentful of that pressure, maybe, or I grew resentful of Europeans in that, I was constantly exposed to everything European when I wanted to be exposed to everything American. Like when I saw Neuschwanstein, that big castle in Germany and the Bavaria, I said to the tour guide, "Oh yeah, well the one Walt Disney built was better." So, I was just this sort of snarky, smart aleck, rebellious by the time I was 16, wanting to go back to America.
I could tell by those poundings of the fists that you're doing on the table.
Oh yeah, sorry about that.
So is Texas the first state that you really lived in America, or?
No, I actually was born in Washington D.C, so lived there a few years. My dad was serving a stint in the Pentagon, and I don't remember a whole lot about it, but I do remember some things. And then we would come home every now and then. My dad would get leave, and we'd go to California or New England, and so I got a little sense of.
So what age did you leave for the U.S. from D.C. and go over to Europe?
5.
Oh, so 5.
Oh,
and then when you came back, besides the vacations, did you, like Ross was saying, did you directly go from there to Texas?
No, actually, I was 18, but just at that point, things were not going well between my father and I.
And that was mainly because of the fact that you resented him for taking...
Well, no, he was going to decide where I was going to go to college,
Oh,
and
really?
I thought that should be my decision.
Did he want you to do the Air Force, or?
No, he wanted me to go to West Point.
All right.
And so I left home when I was 18, and they had just moved to California, and I went to Arizona, which was a right-to-work state, and I walked onto a construction site, and basically I humped lumber until I bought tools and became a rough frame carpenter.
Wow.
Established financial independence for 3 years, which made me eligible for institutional aid at private universities, and that's when I, went to Rice.
Oh, okay.
So how did all these ideas about being American, once you got to Rice and got kind of settled and in there, it must have been like totally not what you expected?
No, it wasn't. It just
imagine.
wasn't. I had this idea of what an American was, but it was very idealized, and it just didn't happen when there I was, and working construction, all these guys that I worked with, all they wanted to do is
say bad words and
that and
talk about women.
That. Right.
Oh, Jason knows. It sounds like
I've been
he's
around the
worked with some of those
construction
guys.
site guys and know what they're about.
Yeah, I wasn't going to put it so genteelly as you do.
What was it like for you then? I mean, that's what they're doing basically, right?
Were they like this
Telling
Euro
jokes.
kid, or did they make fun of you?
Oh,
or-
hell yes. Yeah, right.
How did you, is that where you kind of got a spine a little bit? And
Oh, no, I had a spine before. But, I mean, I just realized that, this country is not what I thought it was. I saw a lot of people that were just barely getting by, and a lot of people that were living miserable lives. And about 8-9 months of that time, I got a job building homes as part of a federal project on the Pima Indian Reservation, and I saw a hell of a lot of misery there. And I mean, just things like this changed my whole understanding of what this country was.
And on that note, we're going to take a quick break, and we will be back with Max Eberts for some more discussion after this quick break.
Thanks for that, Ross. That was great. Good info. You are listening to Prosers, and a little information about something coming up in Moscow is the Hemingway Fest. It's a 3-day event sponsored by the University of Idaho in celebration of Ernest Hemingway and his love for Idaho. It is next week, the 3rd through the 5th of March. The UI English department has established the Hemingway Fellowship, which is awarded annually to a grad student in fiction in his or her third year. The purpose of the fellowship is to give the student the time and space to work on a book-length work of fiction. Max Eberts, our guest in the studio tonight, is this year's Hemingway Fellow. Max will be reading at the festival next Thursday, March 5th, along with Hemingway Foundation Pen Award winner No Violet Bulawayo, author of We Need New Names, at the Kenworthy Performing Arts Center in Bosco. The festival runs from Tuesday to Thursday, and there are a lot of events, including a reading by Ron McFarland, a screening of the film Hemingway Adventures of a Young Man, a fabulous multi-course feast inspired by Hemingway's work, which includes oysters, wild rabbit, and venison. Tickets are still available, and you can call 208-885-6156 for that. Also, a reading by visiting distinguished writer Allison Hawthorne Deming and readings by grad students. For more info, visit the University of Idaho English Department website or like 6th Annual U of I Hemingway Festival on Facebook, and you can learn as much as you possibly need to know. So, here in the studio with Max, Hemingway Fellow, and I want to know what it's like being the Hemingway Fellow this year. Doth the crown make thine head hang heavy?
No. But heavy with privilege. And so I feel like I have to use this time because it is a gift to really work hard on this thesis project, which is my novel that I just read a little bit from. So I just mainly want to say what a great privilege and opportunity it is, and how grateful and thankful I am to have this time, because what it does, it frees me up from having to teach 2 courses. Had I not had this fellowship, I would be teaching 2 courses this semester. And that's a hell of a lot of work, and that's a lot of time that I wouldn't have to work on my project.
That's fantastic.
Yeah,
that's
great.
great. I do have a question related to that, and it's related to kind of a concern that Jason expressed to me the other night. It sounds like he had some interest. He's a first year, but he had some interest in applying in his third year for a Hemingway Fellowship, but he expressed to me some reticence about applying for the fellowship because he doesn't know if he has, I think what he calls kind of the social the social stamina to sort of be
the Hemingway Fellow.
The Hemingway Fellow, or to go around, or to have that kind of to market himself and have that.
Well,
is that required? Do you think Jason could pull it off?
Let me just put this to rest for you, Jason.
Thanks.
You have more than enough charisma to pull it off.
No, thanks.
You would be a
charisma,
great
probably.
Hemingway Fellow, and I would definitely apply.
All right.
Does it require a certain kind of social ease? Do you feel like you're kind of on stage, having to be something for someone?
I think it's important that a Hemingway Fellow is an international man
Of mystery?
of mystery and who drinks Dos Equis.
But it seems like from just seeing the events and stuff like that, you're giving introductions to the professors, you're greeting people at the door, you're selling Hemingway feast tickets. It seems like you're kind of all over the place with that, and that's the kind of part of it that's like, I'm like,
Yeah,
I'm like
sure.
more of a behind the scenes sort of
Sure,
person.
and that's something I volunteered to do.
You did.
I don't think it was required.
All right.
I just wanted the festival to be a really good event, and I thought if I got involved with it, more people would know about it, more people would get involved, more people from Bosco would come to it, and so that's been my objective.
So you're taking like an extra leap that you're kind of just taking it like this is kind of I want to go out there, promote it, show myself.
Yeah. I mean, it's also kind of a thanks for thank you for this.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm here providing testimony of the award and how great it is and how we should build on that.
Yeah, definitely.
So bartending isn't part of the application. It's just a specific skill you bring.
Oh, right. I bartended at that Sneak Peeks event. But actually, I didn't.
Wait, you got lots of tips, I hear.
No, actually.
And I heard you pocketed them too, right?
No.
What else would he do with tips?
Clarice and some others took over because I was doing introductions and so.
Oh, yeah.
But that was a fun event, by the way.
Yeah, that was really good.
Yeah.
That was great.
But if I had my way, I would have been there making gimlets for everybody.
Nice.
Yeah, I've heard.
Hemingway's favorite
They're
drink.
Max's favorite, famous gimlets for sure. He's solicited weekly for them.
I've never had one. I've seen you pour them because we have these things called symposiums where certain people in the program read their work, and Max sometimes brings gimlets for the readers, and he brings it in like a thermos or some sort of like. It's pretty.
It's his gimlet thermos.
Oh, is it specifically gimlet?
Just for gimlets.
Yeah, I've been asked to do that a couple of times, so I complied. But I'll be more than happy to make you a gimlet sometime.
Yeah. We'll have to have a gimlet before you leave. Like have a gimlet party or something.
You bet.
I don't even know what a gimlet is. What is it even? Like,
oh, it is awesome. They go down like lemonade. And
now we're going back to drinking in a small town again.
Yeah, I know.
Back around.
Everyone's thirsting after it.
So we're talking about a real fine gin. My preference is Bombay.
All right.
Blue.
Yeah.
And then Rose's lime juice. I squeeze about a good deal of fresh lime juice in there, a little bit of sugar, and you stir it all up, throw it in one of those shakers, and throw the ice in there, and I like them up, so you get them nice and cold in that shaker.
Nice.
And then you just pour it in a martini glass.
That sounds amazing.
On a little garnish of lime.
Okay, I have a question.
All right. That sounds
kind of
great,
related to social events, social dynamics. It's kind of goes into that. So sometimes when I talk with Max or when he's kind of talking about other people or kind of reflecting, he can at times be a little cutting, a little Joan Rivers, just like a little catty. And other times he surprises me by being very soft and kind of open and radically accepting of people in a way that I feel like I can't be all of a sudden. I was just kind of wondering, well, what does it take to get into Max's heart? What is it that a person may exude when you first meet them that you immediately like them and are open to them? And then what are qualities that you kind of like you want to kind of make fun of them?
Wow, man, that's
cutting deep tonight.
That's deep.
You are.
That's a deep cut.
I don't know. You never know what's going to interest you. I like to think of myself as like the bridegroom married to the world, always discovering something new about the bride.
Wow.
Wow. Good answer.
So, you just never know. But I love people. I love being around people, but they also can certainly annoy the hell out of you. And
Shocker.
And when they do, I'm there.
You have so many skills, Max. You're there to serve gimlets and also
dish it out. Thank you.
You do have a way of being simultaneously like harsh with people, but also like very curious and like affectionate towards them too. I'm totally fascinated by it.
You're making me sound like an old school marm.
So just to get on back, so then you went to Rice, and did you study writing there just to kind of get that story, just of how you fell into this?
No, actually, they had this thing called Ancient Mediterranean Civilizations, which was Rice's version of classics. And instead of having to major in both Latin and Ancient Greek, or it should have been the other way around. You could just focus on one, and so I focused on ancient Greek. But at the same time, as a result of just focusing on one, you also have to know the literature and the art and the history of that.
So you learned like the history of literature before you even began writing. Then would you say that? Or?
Well, yeah, I did have a lot of courses like that. And while I was at Rice, they had this year-long core course that all students had to take, which was actually it went on for 3 semesters, and it was a history of our Western intellectual tradition. Mm-hmm. And so we began with works of Homer, and probably I think that one of the last things we read was from the modernist period of the 1920s with Hemingway.
Yeah, because it seems like like even in workshops, like every period of literature, it seems like you read a ton. Like, do you feel like you know the whole history of it for the most part?
Oh God, hell no.
But you have a pretty good.
But yeah, no, I sort of, it's kind of like listening to a piece of music and saying, oh yeah, that's from the Baroque period. Mm. Yeah. Hands down. That's from the classical period. I guess my knowledge is kind of at that level.
All right.
But I certainly have read works from every major literary movement in our Western, our Occidental tradition.
Mm.
I think that's something we all, the 3 of us, really aspire.
Yeah, I look up to that. I mean, I wish I had. Like, I'm trying to gain that knowledge here because I came in here not really having any of that whatsoever. I took Myths and Legends in high school. I learned the basics, and then I had some literature classes in high school, but I wasn't a literature major or anything. So it's like I'm trying to catch up, and it's just like it just amazes me, like people like you and like some other people, like how much they know, and I just feel like whoa, what's going on here?
Oh yeah, well I think I was really lucky because I had to do a lot of reading just in my secondary education too. Mm. So even by my end of my secondary education, I had read a lot, but then I read a huge amount in college, and also I was I doubled. I was an art history major as well. So, but with a focus on antiquities, of course.
Max, I was wondering if there is like a Greek god or a myth that you find that reverberates through your stories or plays out in your life, you can't escape. Just because I wonder if you kind of think in those terms and include that in your stories in that way. If there's just there's some story or some figure you keep identifying with, or
well, too, I think Homer. I just think, to this day, the Iliad is one of the most amazing things I've ever read. And I had the great privilege of having just an amazing prof, and we actually translated numerous books of the Iliad.
Wow.
And that just was an incredible experience. And then we were given the chance to go on and do it with the Odyssey, and I translated that book where Achilles goes down to Hades, and Odysseus goes down to Hades, and he runs into Achilles or Achilleos, and he says, "Oh, how wonderful it must be to be the king of, not the king of Hades, but the great mortal down here ruling over the kingdom of the dead." And Achilles' answer is, "Oh no, I would rather be the slave to the lowliest man on earth and be alive and have the sun on my back than to be down here in Hades."
Yeah.
And I just, think that Greeks over, Homer, we're talking, 30 200 years ago had insights like that, and the Iliad is full of insights like that, and so yes, it has. You know, I don't know what to say. It really has made a huge impression on how I think about life.
Right.
Do you so you have all this knowledge. So that after your undergrad, then, so what did you do? Because you had a little different. So when did you actually the first time you sat down and actually wrote something? Then when was that after college or during college? Or?
Well, actually during college, I was lucky enough to have Susan Wood, who was a poet of the time. She had just completed her second volume, which was called Campo Santo, and she led a poetry workshop, and that was a great experience, and that's when I first started writing.
So you were writing poetry, and then just kept spiraling from there.
Yeah, and you know, I was kind of a narrative poet. I mean, not kind of, I was. And
is that like looked down upon by poets? Like
apparently,
I think everything is looked down by on poets.
Down by poets. Well, you should know. You just got.
Yeah.
It's like, this is making sense. Why is this story? Why is this? Why am I able to follow this poem?
It'd be like, there's no nature in this poem. Put some nature. Put some trees. And then you do that, and they'd be like, why is this nature in here? It's a win-win situation. Not is what poetry is.
So one day I just was writing this thing, because most of them are things, and it just, you know, seemed like a piece of fiction to me, and so I just, that's when I made the switch.
And then you were straight fiction from then on out, or did you?
Yeah, I don't think I ever looked back.
Have you ever written nonfiction at all, or
he found? I will speak for him. He was in my nonfiction workshop, and he really found he was very apprehensive at first, but wrote nonfiction very naturally and very beautifully.
Wow, thank you.
I feel like you can. I feel like you have a ton of stories to tell, like that could be told nonfiction. I mean, it's if your main character in Berlin Story is anything like your life, it's like, gee, like I felt kind of bad
Jason's
reading
jealous.
it. I was
He's
like,
so
this
jealous.
kid has done more than me, and like by the time he's 15 than I'll ever do in my entire life. I mean, and he's seen more than I've
heard, I've heard Max described as a cat with 9 lives.
Oh wow, who said that?
I can't say on here.
All right. So, yeah, you know, but I was just thrust into that, and that's the thing about our fate. I mean, that thing of Achilles. You know, the greatest warrior of all time. Or if he had been able to live, he would have chosen to be the servant or the slave of the poorest man on earth.
I think I'd maybe rather be in hell sometimes. But I think of like
not for Jason.
Well,
He
Brad
chooses
Pitt's
the other.
well,
it's Brad Pitt playing you in the movies. I think
that's.
And I think even if you're unhappy in Hades, if Brad Pitt's playing you in the movies, you should be like, well,
be grateful.
yeah.
It's like something. It's like, well, I have to work this job. It's like the sun does feel good on your back, but then it's like, well, then you got to go work this job 4 hours a week that you don't like and go home this summer.
That's true.
Don't make it realistic. Come on.
Or what about On the Waterfront? That guy that Marlon Brando played, like his life was pretty terrible, but in the end, Marlon Brando played him, even though he was fictional.
Yeah, Max.
I could have been a contender.
Maybe you should rethink this destiny
Which destiny?
of working instead of living in hell.
We're trying to completely shatter your ideas.
No, I don't want to live in hell. That's why I like that meeting between Odysseus and Achilles. I subscribe to Achilles, his words and his outlook.
No, I could buy that. I mean, definitely, like, when I was working at Winco, people were always like, oh, you have such a good job, and you're going to be a millionaire. This is great. And then I'm like, no, I hate this. And Odysseus did come through my line a couple times.
Well, I will say, in agreement with that, Ross, I don't think... maybe there's been one job in my life that I've held that I've liked. So.
What was that?
I worked for an ad agency for a short while, and that was fun.
Was that the one in New York?
Yeah.
Yeah. You were telling, because you were living out there for a while, and you said you loved it, right?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
And what was the worst job?
Oh God, I think
Corporate?
yeah, definitely the corporate world. I think the worst would be when I was at KPMG, which is one of
I
the.
thought you were going to say KRFP.
Oh no.
No, man.
No diss in the radio station there.
KPMG is not a radio station. It's one of the big four accounting financial firms.
All right.
And so they manage all the audits and taxes, and they have an advisory section as well for major corporations. Like General Electric is one of their big, accounts. And because they are so good at tax management and auditing, General Electric hasn't paid corporate taxes for the last decade. So I think working in that environment was very grating on me. I felt like every day I gave up a little bit of my soul. Mm-hmm. And my specific job there was to oversee for the entire Southwest region all the major audit proposals. And I also doubled working for the World Energy Institute at KPMG, which was headquartered in Houston as well. So that job killed me because I was working about 75 hours a week, and it was and for 6 months.
Yeah,
nonstop. I didn't have a weekend off, and it was just killing me.
That sounds absolutely horrible.
So,
and I'm glad you're not doing it anymore.
Oh man, so am I.
So we got time for about like one last thing, and I just want to ask you. So I'm curious. I always ask. I probably asked Catherine about 20 times like this question, and she's like, "You always ask me that."
I do, yeah.
And I'm just curious, what's the plan after this? Like, you're gonna graduate in a couple months, and you're gonna be. I mean, I just always curious to know
what's next.
What's next for Max?
Yeah.
I have no idea. I really don't. I have no idea. I mean, I'm probably going to try to find some little job that would let me finish what I've started here. And then I'm just going to give that my best shot, not the job. But, I'll try to do that too. Yeah. But I mean...
You should become a bartender at the garden.
Yeah. But
I feel like that's
what I want to
calling
give
for you.
my best shot is this novel. Yeah. And so that's what I'm going to try to do.
Awesome.
If I could just find something that allows me, where I can do a job that's good and
it's tolerable, and you like it,
and I can be an asset, and I can, offer something, but I don't have to take the job home with me, where I could then at home work on my project.
Writing.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking for.
Awesome.
Respect, yes.
RESPCT. Well, thank you, Max, very much. I mean,
Thanks.
That was awesome.
God,
Thanks so much,
this
Max.
was really
Easy
fun.
breezy. Yeah.
And I wanted
Thank you.
I wanted really fast to give a shout out to my nephew Brady. He turns 11 tomorrow. Happy birthday, buddy.
Brady.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
All right, on that note, thank you very much for listening. We will be back in 2 weeks on Thursday. Thank you very much for listening. Once again, we are Prosers. We are also on Facebook, by the way, at Prosers.
Like us on Facebook.
Yeah, like us. We forgot.
Just fine. Search for us. Prosers.
Have a good night.